getting used to it. I'm learning more after 4 years. I think I'm learning a little more.
Especially toggling mute on and off.
Well, okay, then now I kind of got that one taken care of now.
Good.
Well, how you doing, Julie?
I'm good.
Okay.
Alrighty, I went ahead and went live. I'm gonna let Brian in here and then we just need Dave Elrath, but I figured it's 10 o'clock, so I'll put it out there. So we are live on Facebook, YouTube. Whoops.
What is it? This one is the one. Oh, really? Yeah.
Annette, I do have copies of them, so I'll introduce it into the minutes. I knew I had them. I just wasn't sure if it had been done in the official admin committee. So are we good to go?
Hey, Jim.
I'm waiting for, oh, here comes Dave. We are already live. I don't know if you heard me say that.
I did. Is Dave present? Because I can't see him.
Almost.
Okay.
There he is.
Okay, if everyone's present, I'll call this meeting to order and ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Commissioner Curran,
Present via Zoom, Niles Township.
Is it that Newberry smell? Yes. Yeah.
Commissioner Meeks,
There was a.
President via Zoom, Ben Charter Township.
I think it was the bowl.
Commissioner Warfel,
Present via Zoom, Royalton Township.
Commissioner Volrath,
Here in Coloma.
all present.
Okay, thank you. First item on the agenda is Caitlin, our 911 director. 800 megahertz in the fire service discussion. What do you got for us?
Good
Kate?
morning.
Morning.
I actually have a number of things. I will try to keep them brief. Again, yes, I'm in my car. I'm present from Lincoln Township Fire Chiefs meeting, so I'm not driving. First, I have the Telerad service agreement for the maintenance of our VHF system. I believe you should have received a copy of that. So I'm just looking for review of that. It's already gone through corporate council. There are no changes besides a minor price and cost update. It's just to continue our maintenance with our VHF system through our vendor Telerad. I just need to move forward with approvals to get that signed. Anybody have any questions on that one?
Nope, I'm good with that one.
Okay. Then second, you should have also received a Motorola service agreement contract. This is a new 4-year contract. Nothing has changed. This is an existing service that we received through Motorola for the maintenance of our 800 megahertz radio system. So it covers the infrastructure, the consoles, repair and maintenance, the radio recording. Oh, great, thank you. So in this one, they've laid out the cost per year, the changes as well. So again, this has gone through corporate council. There's no change to the statement of work. It's just an updated contract for another 4 years and updated pricing. Any questions on that? Again, I just need to move it forward for approval.
Okay, if there's no objections, we'll move that one forward.
Okay, then I wanted to update the committee. I will have another one brought to you hopefully in the coming weeks as well for Intrado service agreement, and that's for our phone system maintenance, our equipment. So I'm working with Intrado on getting that finalized. Again, that will just be a renewal of what we currently have in place. Then the Waterfleet Hospital ASR, I wanted to update you on the tower site there. So the target has now been pushed out to the end of April for completion. That was due to a number of factors, including furlough days with the state and stuff that happened with COVID and all of that. And then we had some hold up with Spectrum's legal team for approvals. just last week, we did receive the approval for to move forward with that, and we're just finalizing details. Part of this is that we need to install fiber from the DMARC at the building site to the penthouse where the radio equipment will reside. Excuse me. And so both our IS department, Kip is on the meeting with us here to answer any specific questions you might have about the technical aspect of it. And then Motorola, the project manager through Pyramid, obtained a quote for that work. And there's quite a substantial cost difference between the two quotes. Again, IS can speak a little bit more to that if you have questions. But the one that they received was from a local vendor that they've used before. And that quote was for $22,750 to run the fiber through conduit through the building up to the penthouse. The quote from Motorola's contractor was $55,777.78. So again, I'm bringing that to the committee if there's any input on selection or discussion, and then I will need to take it to finance to move forward with getting this work done.
Would you remind?
Did you want to add any?
Would you remind?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Would you remind the committee what an ASR is?
Yes, I'm sorry. So the Watervliet Hospital ASR site is the area site repeater. So essentially, it's an additional tower site on our state 800 megahertz radio system, and that's being put in place there with cooperation and support from the hospital because they're providing their generator, the power, the uninterrupted power source, the UPS. They're providing us all that shelter and everything and the elevation because it's going to benefit them as well, but it's going to benefit that whole community up there to increase radio coverage. We've had a loss of signal over time, in large part due to the growth of the landfill there in Watervliet, and there are just some dead spots, especially around the lake and stuff as well. So this will fill in a lot of those gaps up in the northern portion of our county as far as radio coverage. And it won't just be for pagers, it will be for, thank you, look at this is awesome. It will be for portables and mobiles as well. So all radio communications, not just the outbound for pagers. So you'll see there up in the right-hand corner where that dot is, Lakeland Hospital, that's where the site is going in.
Okay.
Then this is actually a map with no hospital. Brian, could you scroll down to, I believe it's the next one? Yes, so this is the map with the addition of the hospital site. So you can see that change. The purple is the coverage with the signal.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks for that explanation, Caitlin. Appreciate that. Have you had a chance to look at those and find out why there's such a discrepancy between the 22,000 and the 55,000?
Kip, could you speak more to that? We did have both quotes in hand. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
The scope of the work is the same. So the fiber extension runs from the basement in the Watervliet Hospital all the way to the penthouse where the radio equipment will be. In talking with their folks there that maintain the building and facilities, as well as the project manager and Motorola in the state of Michigan, they determined that they really want that fiber running through that building in conduit for two reasons. One, so that if they ever have to come in and do any maintenance on their stuff within the building, there's not a risk of cutting that fiber. But also then to provide just a singular pathway from point A to point B. So in the future, if you ever need to use it again, you can reuse it. Again, they're placing this inside conduit. Both quotes have that conduit throughout the building. It's about 350 feet of fiber optic cable from point A to point B. And then it's really just the labor. And so I think a lot of the differences is just coming down to what one vendor is charging for their labor versus the other. I don't see anything outside of the quotes that really, at least from my perspective, trigger anything that goes, yeah, that's a $25,000 difference in the price for what they're providing. So
And the 55,000 is Motorola. And the 22,000 is a local vendor?
Yeah, 55,000 is the subcontractor for Motorola, I believe, that is doing the electrical and some of the other work in that project. And so, you know, they bid that out as part of it once it was determined that that was something that was going to need to be done that was outside of the scope of the project as a whole. And so that was just their quote for that.
Okay. And then who gave you the 22,000 quote?
The other one is from Dowd Systems. Dan Dowd is the principal there. He has actually done a fair bit of work for Berrien County on some other projects. Last year, for example, one of these is the Public Defender's Office over at Edgewater, which is eye shot from our building here. He did the work for the wireless connection between those two buildings, which has worked flawlessly for us. He's also done, we actually have done the same thing from the courthouse here over to the administration building, which we'll be bringing that up here shortly as well. So it's a vendor we have used in the past for these type of projects, and has a pretty good track record with us.
Okay, so are you going to make the recommendation to finance of accepting the bid from Dowd? Is that what you intend to do?
I'll defer to Caitlin, but
Okay, thanks, Kip.
yeah.
Yes, thank you, Kip. Yeah, that is our intention. Like Kip explained, the statement of work looks exactly the same, and Kip was able to talk with Dowd Systems directly as well to make sure that they can satisfy the requirements of the project with insurance and all of that. And yeah, on our last call last week for the project, the other quote from Pyramid through Motorola's project manager, they spoke to that labor, that it's really labor intensive to go through the drop ceilings and all of that. So I mean, that's a big difference, but I would prefer to go with the smaller one.
Okay, great. Any questions from the committee members?
Don, I want to say something. I'm very comfortable with this lower bid. It spells out the same thing. And not only that, we have had prior work done with them, which we have excellent results. So I feel very comfortable going with the lower bid. And somebody did their homework basically on this, so I kind of give them your props. But I'm very comfortable with the lower bid.
Thanks, Don. Anyone else?
I agree.
Okay,
Mr.
very
Chair,
good. Yes.
just to take 30 seconds and talk with our newest commissioner. Over the last probably 3 months, between the Fire Chiefs Association, the 911 Advisory Board, between myself, Caitlin, and the chair, we've had a fair amount of communication with some of the southern fire departments. Just generally, they've got concerns about radio coverage, be it VHF or 800 megahertz. And the picture that I wanted to make sure that was being painted is that with the project for the hospital in Watervliet, even though you couldn't get further away between Watervliet and Buchanan as far as distance-wise within the county, this project will have a benefit to the overall county. And that coverage map was developed in partnership with Motorola. And it's one that makes a ton of sense. And we may hear some complaints from the southern departments that we're not doing enough. We are still working with them actively, but this is part of a bigger puzzle. But that's it, sir.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Caitlin, is this a budgeted amount or is this capital improvement? Where's the 22,000 coming from?
So that's part of that project for the Watervliet site. So the money is, it's there, it's available as part of that project.
Budgeting.
Okay, great. All right, anything else from the committee members for Caitlin? Okay, not hearing any, you can go back to the fire chiefs meeting.
Thank you muchly.
Yeah.
I will be presenting tomorrow to the whole board on the radio systems and the kind of brief, truncated overview on our efforts through those initiatives, just to give you guys a heads up. It doesn't sound like anybody has any questions at this point regarding that, so that's good. But I'm always available if anybody ever has any questions on that. And one other thing to mention is I am working on doing our state training fund report. It's an annual report done every year, just reporting the use of our training funds that we receive from the state and then applying for new funds. So I will be completing that this week and getting that over to Administrator Doucette and Finance to get that signed. So I just wanted to bring that up to date as the group as well. Otherwise, I'm done unless anybody has any questions for me.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
one nice thing, this is a completely fun one that'll surprise Caitlin with the request, but Caitlin is the first department head that's notified me about members of the county staff taking part in that. It's like the Futures for Frontline Workers program. I think this is pretty cool. So Caitlin, would you just in 30 seconds tell the committee what you've shared?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for reminding me of that. So that the Futures for Frontliners scholarship that was available through the state, one of our staff members applied for that, and we promoted that to our staff, but she actually had done it before we even sent out the reminder on it. And she notified me recently that she received the scholarship. So she's going to be able to go back to school and to get her associate's degree free of charge due to that scholarship. So we're really excited for her. She's hoping to maybe move forward into some aspect of 911 administration in the future. So we're continuing to grow our 911 community, and I'm really excited for her. Thank
That's
you.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else for Caitlin? Okay. For the benefit of the committee members, the concerns from the South County have been shared with Commissioner Elliott and myself. As we're the two primary commissioners for that area. And Caitlin has done an excellent job, as well as Brian, on keeping us up to speed on how they're progressing for that. So thank you for that report, Caitlin. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm going to duck back to my other meeting. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. You too. Okay, next item on the agenda, review of Resolution B 2101149. And Julie, I guess I'll kind of turn this over to you.
Okay, I received a little bit of feedback on it, and I know there's some concerns, and some of the concerns were sent to me, and others were just I have concerns. So I guess I'd like to first hear which paragraphs or where some of the concerns lie, because I do have a few potential rewrites that maybe make it, more appealing or address those concerns. So, if the three of you have any of those concerns, I'd really appreciate knowing where they lie.
Well, let me ask the other two committee members, did you see my email that I responded back with suggestions?
Yes.
Don and Dave, did you guys see that?
I've seen it.
Okay. And as written, and I don't know if this is one of those that you've corrected or not, but it was under the now therefore be it resolved that the Berrien County Board of Commissioners can no longer support the enforcement of these orders, and we will turn all enforcement over to the state agencies. I don't think that's appropriate.
Yeah, that was pretty harsh. That was in which one of those?
Now therefore be
5
it
or 6.
I've got it up for,
It's down near the
display.
bottom. Now therefore be it resolved.
Oh, the now therefore.
I
Sorry.
can't sign it with that. We're
Yeah.
no longer enforcing
Yeah.
the orders. No way.
So here's a rewrite on that one and see if this is more palatable. That is pretty harsh and how that got interpreted over. So now therefore that the Berrien County Board of Commissioners will not encourage our businesses to break any MDHHS orders. We will turn the violations over to the state agencies when reported to discourage neighbors from turning on each other. End of paragraph.
Well, I don't want to put any of that into a resolution. And before I would even consider that, Julie, you have to bring the sheriff and the health department director into this conversation. You know, if we were to do this tomorrow without getting the input from the sheriff and the health department, it's not fair to them, because that's actually their responsibility. And I would want their input on this first before we say, you guys aren't going to enforce these, you're going to turn them all over to the state. I don't want to put our sheriff and our health department in that position. And I don't want it in a resolution.
I
Because
agree. It'd take a lot of flack for that, and it's not, I wouldn't want to do that to those, you know, it's to the sheriff or Nikki.
I also agree that they should be involved in this, especially when they're going to be enforcing the laws. So we need their input, I think.
Okay.
We don't have to do nothing on that right away, do we? Or maybe we can get involved and tweak this law.
Well, I think it depends on what Julie wants to do. I think she wanted to introduce this tomorrow.
Well,
Correct?
that was the thought that went through the board last week, that, you know, my original thought was just a letter, not a resolution. So it turned into a resolution. So I have no issues with the sheriff and the health department being a part of this. Absolutely. They can be a part of it. You know,
So do you want to hold on to this resolution until we can bring the sheriff and the health department into the conversation and not introduce it tomorrow? Or do you still want to introduce it tomorrow as is?
well, I don't think as is the correct way for it to be introduced at any point, because I don't think it's ready as is, even as our group. I mean, there were things in here written as a resolution that I also didn't agree with. You know, it's like I said, it started from a letter, but when it turns into a resolution with the wording the way it is, it changes some of the meaning. So I certainly understand where you're coming from on that 100%. And I know our chair, Mac Elliott, has also had some feedback on it as well. So I would like to hear back from him as well on what that input is, so that we can have a, you know, I think the resolution needs to be strong, because I think it's time for local governments to take a stance in support of our communities. And to me, the strongest part of this resolution is in paragraph 3, where you get into the actual data. The amount of actual positive cases and the hospital capacities. I think the word that gets out to the community is almost always negative, and that, you know, it's fear, fear, fear. And I think we need to bring back some reality to the entire situation. And, you know, and I think whenever we do introduce this, we need the most up-to-date information, because obviously it changes daily. So in that paragraph 3 even, and I know, I believe Annette updated all of these to yesterday's numbers. However, the vaccines as of yesterday is like 6,900 right now. I think I pulled on the website this morning. So that the immunizations are really going up now also. So as they're getting more and more vaccines in and getting them out into arms. So the health department is doing a really great job on that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if you and Commissioner Werfel would like to meet with the sheriff, I'm happy to get information or an appointment request sent out. The board's meeting tomorrow. It's something that I could see if we could schedule right after the board meeting, try and get the sheriff, the undersheriff, and the health director to connect with you. They're all pretty swamped, so I can't promise that all 3 would be available, but I'm sure if you give me a couple of days, we can get something scheduled.
Okay.
And we can bring it up next week.
Yeah, and I think what I would prefer to do first, Brian, is bring the board chair into this discussion. Because Julie made a good point. This started out as a letter, not the resolution. We generally speak as a board through resolutions, and maybe that's what's throwing things off a little bit. So I guess I would prefer to talk to the chair first, and either I guess draft a new resolution or see if the board chair wants to go back to doing a letter and not a resolution. So I guess I would want the chair's input on this before we proceed any further. But because I think Julie has got some good points in here, and I agree with a lot of it. It's just a matter of what the process is to get it done.
Do you want staff to reach out to the board chair, or do the two of you want to go direct drive? What's your pleasure?
I don't, Julie, you just want me to get a hold of Mac and see if I can set something up?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, let's do that first, Brian.
Okay.
And then we'll have that conversation, and then we'll see where that leads. And if we need to bring in Nikki and the sheriff, then we'll do that, okay?
Understood.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that, and thank you, Julie.
If I can just add for a second, that vaccine number came from Nikki Britton yesterday morning at the department head meeting. So that 1900 number is from the health department.
Yep.
That is not from Lakeland, because Lakeland had been driving more towards their staff than anything else out in the community at that point. And so that's where that number came from.
Yep.
And then,
And I pulled it off the Michigan site.
oh yeah.
Grand County.
And then the content is pretty much the letter,
Absolutely.
just put into our format of a resolution where you have to have a final statement at the end. So it was kind of drawn off from there. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Julie, I heard you say you had a couple of rewrites to the resolution or to your letter?
Well, even to the resolution, and I can get those to Annette and have her incorporate those. And then we can start with that with Mac, or, completely redo it with Mac, whatever that might be.
All right. Would you please share the rewrites with at least the admin committee members
Yes.
so we can see it? Okay, great. And you're going to do that through Annette?
Yes, I can do that.
Very good. Okay. Anything else on that topic from the committee members? Okay. Next item on the agenda is review of resolution A 2101146. This has to do with the lease for the public defender's office over at the Edgewater district. Brian, is that you?
Yeah, so at this point, the admin committee has had a few conversations with Paul Jancha. I think that we're ready to get this out of committee. I know that there's likely to be a variety of questions coming from the full board. And I just wanted to talk with this group about, number one, are you comfortable with moving this to the full board? And number two, do you feel that we need to do any additional legwork prior to bringing it to the full board?
What do the committee members feel? I'm very pleased with our tour. I'm very pleased with the lease agreement. I'm okay with moving forward, especially since Don got him to clean the carpets.
Well,
Go, Don.
Good job, Don.
if I hadn't did it, Julie's gonna do it.
Okay. What does the rest of the committee think? You guys okay with moving this forward and getting it to the whole board?
I am, Jim. I'm glad we got the opportunity to see that small building again, 100 Church Street, because it is cramped, and he makes a lot of sense. He's in one place. Some of the employees that they need the opportunity to be with the senior employees to learn. I mean, having them in two separate buildings is a disservice to them. And I can't, if we bring people in and say, this is your office, and you walk up them stairs and say, here's where you're going to be sitting, how many people are going to jump at that, and if somebody comes along, and I think it's maybe a reason why some of our people are leaving, I don't really want to go there, but I don't want to stay in this cramped building anymore. I think having that and it's part of the state's paying for that. And I like that idea. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm okay with it.
Not my fault.
And I kind of like that we can use, it kind of seemed like that we can use that space for something else, which is really, it's not sitting dormant. Basically, it's gonna come at a better function for the county. So I'm really okay with the move, and I'm very impressed with that. Like I say, only thing I found that needed to be done was the carpet, and that's been taken care of, I believe. So
That's it, no
Yeah.
additional expense. And I agree. I also was very impressed with the new facility for them. And that they'll be able to spread out a little bit, instead of being so tight in there. And having toured then the courts the very next day, I was able to do that as a new commissioner and seeing how tight they are, and then the utilization of that extra space now that they'll be able to spread out a little bit.
Okay, very good. And I would say at this point, Brian, the 511 Renaissance and the lease agreement is good. But as far as Church Street, we'll wait for a recommendation from you. Because just because Carrie was first in line doesn't mean she's gonna get it. I mean,
I was concerned about that too. Somebody else finding out it's vacant.
Yeah, so I'll the Church Street building, as far as this conversation goes, is it's still being reviewed by the county administrator. And yes, you will make a recommendation for occupancy of the building. It's not going to sit vacant. We understand that. But we'll wait for your recommendation on that. Okay, Brian?
That was a key point I wanted to talk with this group about is if Paul moves out, who gets to move in? And my plan was we've already started the outreach to the sheriff's office, to the courts, but I wanted to notify via staff meeting all departments that were willing to consider alternative uses. Now, I think Carrie's probably makes the most sense, but I don't want to just immediately punt it to the courts. Once they move in, they're probably not moving out. And as Carrie described to admin, there are a number of uses, and I think it could be a win-win. But before we allow anyone to move in, I wanted to have admin formally bless that plan.
I'm good with it. Yeah, that makes the most sense for Caitlin's group, with the location, the sheriff's department, or somebody from the courts. But there be maybe something else that makes more sense too. We don't know that until we find out.
Yeah, Casa de Annette would be a nice fit.
Okay, so
Commissioners, as far as educating the full board, aside from just prepping the resolution and then just doing the admin report to the full board, does this group feel that anything else needs to be done at this point?
like what? What'd you have in mind?
I was thinking that if you all say this is ready to go, I can send an email out to the full board of commissioners just saying, hey, admin has spent quite a bit of time reviewing this. You've looked at the lease agreement, you've reviewed it at the staff level, you've performed site visits to both properties. And then just say to the full board, if any member of the board, before they're ready to vote on this, would require a site visit, just please contact me directly and I'll get them in there ASAP. Outside of that, I can't see what else would be needed.
Okay, Paul, he's made a presentation to the full board, hasn't he? Previously? Okay, that presentation was made to us then, just the admin committee? Okay. Okay, what are your thoughts there, Brian? You think Paul should come before the full board? And he present it and then he can answer any questions?
I'm not sure that's necessary,
Okay.
but I'm not opposed to going that route. I've got Caitlin talking to the full board tomorrow. Dan and Evan will be coming to the full board first meeting in February. Next week, we've got Julie from MSU Extension coming to talk to the full board about some of their services. Putting Paul on there just to brief the full board on what admin has has given the thumbs up to is certainly something we can do.
It's just adding to the work. I mean, it's doing double work. There's no sense in doing this all for the committees. If we're going to look at these things and study them and then go back and say, all right, the other 9 or 10 members of the board, you get your opportunity now. If you want to go tour it, if you want to ask questions, because we studied that, we've done all that.
Yeah.
It's the reason for our having it in the committees. So all 12 of us don't have to have,
Yep.
it should make the most sense. If there's a couple questions from the, that can happen, but we can't question everything that goes through a committee and then have everybody else, rehash it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dave, because traditionally, when a committee vets something and brings it to the full board, we have confidence that they have vetted it and that is the right recommendation and not have to go back over it as the whole board.
Most
So
of-
to that point, Brian, I would say, let us just report out on this
Okay.
to the full board and move it forward.
That sounds good to me.
I would hate to see them have to wait any longer to get this move started.
We've got people. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because I noticed a February 1st, date to start moving in. So I say, let's just go ahead and move it.
You got it.
But that doesn't preclude you from sending out an email with the information, Brian, and saying, this is what the admin has looked at, done their site visit, and they're making this recommendation. So if they get any questions, they can question.
One thing I'll make sure I'll send it out that way, but then I'll also include, I know that like the chair had asked how much had been invested into the property. I'll get that out to the full board so that they've got some background documents.
Yeah, and that
Okay.
way, if they have any questions prior to the board meeting, they can ask them. And that way they'll have all the background information. If they have any questions at the board meeting, they'll have the information. So I think that'll work out good. Sound good, Brian?
Yeah.
Sound good, committee? Everybody okay?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, very
I'd like
good.
to move this forward.
I
Okay,
just wanted to say the snowplow just went by the 3rd time this morning
Uh-oh.
since 6:30.
come on, Dave. I haven't seen one yet.
And the road is still snow covered and slippery, but they put some dirt on it, it looks like now, so.
Okay. Anything else on that resolution? Everybody good?
I
I'll
just
move
need,
forward.
so I have your concurrence to affix your signatures to this resolution. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
We're good. Okay, next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the January 14th, 2020 meeting. Need a motion?
I make a motion that we approve it. The minutes from January 14th meeting.
Support. Well,
Okay. Okay, you have that, Annette? All right, is there any discussion, any questions about the minutes? Hearing none. Madam Secretary, would you please take the roll?
Commissioner Valrath,
yes.
Commissioner Warfel,
Yes.
Commissioner Meeks,
Yes.
Commissioner Kern.
Yes. Okay, then for the purpose of the administration minutes on December the 30th, 2020, I signed a programs fund distribution form for the Sheriff's Department in the amount of $3,079.87. This is from American Electric Power. They donated that amount towards the purchase of a truck cap for the new 2021 Chevrolet 3500 pickup truck for the Berrien County Sheriff's Office Hazardous Materials Team. This is coming from the Berrien Community Foundation, by the way. I also did signed a second distribution form for the Sheriff's Department. This is from Honor Credit Union and Starks Family Funeral Home to purchase an EV-02 dual 640 rugged drone. So, and that's in the amount of $11,379. So we thank those organizations for those donations and we gladly accept them. So if the minutes could just reflect that, that we accepted those, Annette, I would appreciate it.
Got it.
Okay. Public comments. Annette, how many people do we have watching?
Okay, you have 2.
Okay. Well, we're waiting on any public comments. Is there any other business from the committee members? Anything
Yeah.
that
Cool
needs
on
to
who
be
those two
discussed?
people are.
One is Commissioner Freeling. She texted me to say that she saw a plow as well.
That's what I was gonna say. It's probably two commissioners.
Mr. Chair, I've got two items just that should be relatively quick.
Okay, Go ahead.
So one is the FOC remodel. We continue to progress on that. What I've done is I've packaged the contract, so that'd be Metro Business for the furniture, Brown and Brown for general contracting, and then Villa for the environmental abatement work. So those have all been handed off to corporate counsel. The intent is to go through those contracts, find anything that doesn't work for the county. Once we've got the green light on the contracts, I'll work with Annette to prepare one authorizing resolution that would then authorize the entire project. At this point, we're trying to look at, it would be the next holiday, I think, is President's Day. If we can get all of the contracts approved prior to President's Day, I'd like to try and schedule Villa to target that week, just knowing that we'll have at least some of the staff out for President's Day, and it just makes it a little bit easier on logistics. So that's the plan on FOC. And then as it relates to next, yes,
Sorry, newbie. FOC means.
friend of the court.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, sorry.
I was gonna say that, I'm sorry, too.
So the friend of the court contract has gone through admin and has been recommended by finance. We just still have to get it through to the full board. As it relates to next week, yesterday I met with Jason Latham at the road department. He has a draft presentation that we could have into your hands for next week if admin is ready and willing to meet again. I would love to get a date and time knocked out. So I know Jim, Dave, you both have the EOC call next Wednesday, the 27th at 11. Would this group be agreeable to once again meeting at 10 on the 27th?
And what is the road department, what are they bringing to us?
So it's the presentation was done about a year ago to the full board. And it is the template that's used with the various townships across the county, just explaining winter maintenance procedures for the road department. If y'all aren't eager to hear that presentation again, we definitely can just share it with the full board without having a formal meeting. But we received a fair amount of feedback this week related to holiday plowing. And I thought there could be some value in having Jason come and talk with you all about, okay, primary roads are first priority, then secondary roads are second priority, and then subdivisions get addressed when and how they'll be addressed.
Well, I guess personally, yeah, I think that would be good for this committee to hear that again. So if everybody's good,
I'm in favor of that, Jim.
okay, next Wednesday at 10 a.m.
I'm just throwing a number out. If you all want to do it earlier, we can certainly accommodate that.
How long do you think Jason's presentation will last?
I almost said something snarky. I think that, if you wanted to start at 10, we can definitely make it work. If this group wants to start at 9 or 9:30 and allow for a little bit of overlap time, we can accommodate that.
I'm thinking that 9:30 would probably work better.
Okay.
So we don't bump up and have to rush to get to our 11 o'clock. So are all the committee members good with next Wednesday at 9:30 meeting and having the road department presentation? Everybody good with that?
I'm fine with it.
I can do
Okay.
it.
Okay, very good.
Fine.
Then why don't you go ahead and schedule that, Brian?
You got it.
Okay. Anything else, Brian?
That's all I got.
Okay, Annette, how'd you do on public comments?
I don't have any.
Okay,
So you're good.
all right. Anything else from the committee members? Okay, great. If there's no other business, we'll see everybody tomorrow morning, and this meeting's adjourned.
Great day, everybody.
Yeah, and 15.
See you tomorrow.